Okay, imagine this. You've just written a brand new constitution for a country. It's this incredible document, built on a powerful promise of equality for every single citizen. Now, what if you had to turn around and change it just 1 year later? Well, that's exactly what happened in India back in 1951. A huge clash between old traditions and a new right to equality forced the nation's leaders to go back to the drawing board, all because of one single landmark court case.
So, how on earth did that happen? How did one person's legal challenge trigger the very first amendment to India's constitution almost as soon as the ink was dry? This is a story about an old system of social engineering crashing head-on into a new, revolutionary idea of what it means to be equal.
Now, to really get what's going on here, we've got to rewind the clock back to a time before the Republic of India was even a thing. Our story actually kicks off with a government order from all the way back in 1927.
So this rule was called the Communal Government Order, or just the Communal GO for short. And what it did, in the province of Madras, was set aside a certain percentage of government jobs and seats in colleges based entirely on a person's caste. You can think of it as a very early form of affirmative action, and it had been the law of the land for decades, long before anyone was even drafting a constitution.
For years, that was just how things were. But then, in 1950, everything changed. India adopts its new constitution, and suddenly, that old government order from 1927 finds itself in a direct standoff with a brand new, fundamental right that was promised to every single citizen.
And here's the heart of the conflict. You've got the old communal GO on one side, which, by definition, treated people differently based on caste to give them jobs or a spot in college. And on the other side, you have the shiny new Constitution of India, which explicitly guarantees a fundamental right to equality. These two things just could not exist together. I mean, how can you reserve seats based on caste when the highest law in the land says everyone has to be treated as an equal?
Now, this wasn't just some abstract legal debate. Oh no, this conflict landed squarely in the courts, all thanks to a woman named Champakam Dorairajan. Her case against the state of Madras lit the fuse for this entire constitutional showdown.
So, the whole question goes all the way up to the Supreme Court of India. And they had this massive choice to make. Were they going to side with the old established practice, or were they going to defend this new powerful promise of equality?
Well, when the court handed down its decision, they did not mince words. It was crystal clear. They essentially said, look, this communal GO flat out violates the fundamental right to equality. The new right, they declared, trumps the old rule. Period.
And boom, just like that, the old system was shattered. The Supreme Court's verdict meant the communal GO was toast. The whole system of caste-based reservations for jobs and college admissions was struck down. The constitutional right to equality was now the undisputed law of the land.
Now, you might be thinking, great, story's over. But hold on. The court's ruling was really just the beginning of the next chapter. It sent absolute shockwaves through the government, creating a huge problem for their social policies. The nation's leaders knew they had to do something, and fast.
And the response was incredibly swift and significant. This crisis led to the very first amendment to India's constitution. Think about that for a second. Not the 10th Amendment, not even the second, the first. That just tells you what a massive, urgent issue this was for the country's founders.
So you see this perfect domino effect, right? First, the Supreme Court knocks down the old reservation system. This, in turn, creates a huge headache for the government's plans for affirmative action. So to solve that problem, Parliament steps in and passes the First Amendment.
So what did this First Amendment actually do? Well, it was a really clever and crucial clarification. It basically added a new clause to the Constitution, saying that, hey, this right to equality doesn't stop the state from making special laws or giving special consideration to help out the socially and educationally weaker sections of society. It literally created a constitutional exception to the rule of absolute equality.
Okay, so a case from 1951 leads to an amendment in 1951. Why is this so important for us to talk about today? Well, because the legacy of this single case and the amendment it sparked is absolutely profound. It continues to shape India to this very day.
Let's just trace that journey one more time to see how it all connects. It all starts with that 1927 order in Madras. Then, in 51, the Supreme Court says nope and strikes it down in the Champakam Dorairajan case. Almost immediately, Parliament fires back with the First Amendment. And it's that amendment, a direct result of this one case, that provides the legal, constitutional backbone for all reservation policies in India today.
So if you walk away with one thing from this story, let it be this. The case didn't actually end reservations. In this amazing twist, by striking down the old way of doing things, the court actually forced the creation of a brand new constitutional framework that legally allows and defines affirmative action in modern India.
And this whole story leaves us wrestling with a deep and honestly timeless question. It was at the heart of the case back in 1951, and it's still central to debates happening right now. How does any society find the right balance between the vital principle of absolute equality for everyone and the very real need to provide special consideration for its most vulnerable groups? This case didn't solve that puzzle, but it absolutely created the constitutional ring where that debate continues to play out.